Hello, welcome to Madame After Midnight. This is a podcast where we talk about life and its many pursuits of sustainable happiness. I'm your host, Madame Donut. Now, I always give you a warning. This podcast can make you hungry or horny or both, but it's okay because the kids are sleeping, right? Tell me, please, that they are, because tonight is going to be extra sexy and will make you hungry. Well, usually when it makes me hungry, it makes me horny as well, typically speaking. And tonight's guest is very inspiring for all those wonderful sensations in your body, hungry and horniness. He's an award-winning chef here in Maui. He was Aipono Award Chef of the Year in 2020. He's a good friend of mine. I actually miss him since, well, oh my God, I guess since before the pandemic was the last time we actually hung out. And we still talk about our swan times, drinking out of the same swan drink. That's a kind of an inside joke, so we'll probably bring that up later. Anyhow, before I babble on much more, please welcome my guest tonight, Chef Taylor Ponte. Chef Taylor, thank you so much for joining me tonight. It's nice to see you again.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
Right. How have you been since last night?
Great. Just, went to work, hungover. Amazing.
That's how we do though. We're pros. We can get to work right in the morning as if... Oh, did you sleep? Because you're not supposed to sleep so that you didn't get a hangover.
No, I think I just woke up on the table here and then we're good to go.
Anyways, full disclosure, you guys. I woke up this morning, checked my messages. I got a message from Janice, actually. She's like, hey.
She DM'd me too.
Yeah, she's like, something, you must be having technical difficulties. She's like, because after 5 minutes, it shut down. And I was like, what? So I go on, and then I go into my computer and go check out the SD cards, and I was like, fuck. I was missing all the videos. And I called you. I was frantic. I was like, shit. I totally fucked up. Can we do a redo? I was like, I owe you. I'll go to you. I'll, whatever.
You're fine.
I'll buy you. I'll get you donuts. I'll get you a drink. You can spank me. But I was just like, if you spank me, it's probably not a true, I probably will like it too much. So it's probably.
It'd be a reward.
Yeah, it would be a reward. So I was like, I don't even deserve a spanking for a couple of months or something.
No, it's an excuse for a pahana,
Right.
It's
and that's what we said. I basically started this podcast so I can hang out with people I haven't seen or talked to in a while or been wanting to meet. So like I said, I just miss you so much.
Yeah, yesterday was the dress rehearsal.
That's right.
And now it's game day.
Right, and you're actually wearing your chef coat now.
Yeah, right.
I'm wearing the same dress because I was like, okay, maybe I can fake this and pretend that nothing happened. But I was like, you know what? It was hilarious.
You're just assuming I was going to wake up in the same place as last night. You had so much faith in me.
Because we were talking about that. We just rally. Just don't sleep. Fucking party through the night and rage through. That's what I do.
Just wipe the drool.
Nobody would notice.
Drink the coffee, go straight to work. You're ready to go.
I mean, this is a chef look anyways, right? I go, you just woke up, cigarette in your mouth, and I'm like...
Wake the cheeks up.
Yeah. Anyways, because I've already taken so much of your time, let's go straight into business.
Mm-hmm.
Kamado. So you now run your own private chefing company. So how did this come about? What's Kamado? What does it mean? What's the concept? Mm-hmm. What do people expect when they call Kamado?
Kamado is a name that Natasha actually researched and found to refer to the area in a kitchen or in a home where the family gets together and dines. Mm-hmm. And so we found that would be a great name, but also a compass to guide us through what we're trying to do as a private chef and catering and pop-up company. And so we do anything from catered events to restaurant takeovers to chef's tables, multi-course meals, family-style meals, birthday celebrations, funerals, drop-offs. We do it all. So, we definitely...
How does a restaurant takeover work? Instead of the in-house chef,
Well, during COVID, it was great because everyone was shut down and they were like, hey, do you want to come in and pay our rent for the day and do it? And we were like, sure. Or let them, we'll work out a deal. So it kind of was a way to have them open for business, or maybe they didn't have staff to run 5 days a week, so they closed.
Yeah.
Now, basically, what we do is we turn it into an event, advertise it, and we figure out how if they want to be compensated. Maybe they want just a cash out, or maybe they want a percentage, or we just figure out how we do it.
Oh, that's so cool. Now, you mentioned Natasha. Natasha is your partner, life partner, and business partner, right? So, obviously, you're the chef, and people know you. You're the face of the business. And what does Natasha do?
She does everything that's not cooking. So, I mean,
although she's
the real question is, what doesn't she do?
Right.
She does the marketing, the emails, social media.
Yeah.
Most people DM our account and think it's me, but it's not.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people who know me and my text is very one word response with an emoji, or I don't have time to write some eloquent message, that's usually her.
Yeah, when Kamado messaged me, I was I already knew that wasn't Natasha, because it totally did not sound like you. So.
Yeah.
But yeah.
It's not enough hearts.
Yeah. Not enough emojis.
Yeah,
she actually
emojis.
Writes properly.
Yeah.
But I love that you mentioned what she does and how important she is in the business, because just last week I had Janice Simeon on the show, and it was something I wanted to highlight, right? When you have a business, and one person usually will be the face of the business, but it's really the team that keeps it going.
Totally.
So it's obviously you're a very gifted chef, and people love you. I love your food. Who doesn't? And people usually book with you because of your food, but you can't really function fully without that.
Not at all.
Yeah.
It's all the stuff that doesn't pertain to food. It's almost like being a show pony. It's the stabling, the feeding, the trainers, getting you around the shows, all that stuff that I'm sure people who tried to become private chefs during COVID without a Natasha struggled, because it's so difficult. And we bring all our own plateware, fine china, all that, and wash it. That's all of our stuff. We don't use whatever's in your hotel room or your house, unless you have something that's really cool. We bring all that too.
And that if they prefer that, right? Right now it's a 2-person show.
Yep, 2-person show. We have a couple people that we hire casually and whatnot, but for the most part, it's us. We do anywhere from, we could do a 1-person dinner if someone was feeling it, but we usually do anywhere from 2 to 10 for our multi-course meals, and if they want to do a bigger party, we turn it into a larger event and make it fun.
I would love to do it. One of these days when I can afford you, I'll be just cook for me, breakfast, lunch, and dinner for a week.
I'll trade you. We'll do donuts for dinner.
That was so cool. I'm not even kidding, man. It would be so cool. But you grew up here on Maui, and but Kamado. Sorry, I just want to go back to Kamado. Kamado is not a Hawaiian word.
No, it's Japanese in root. Because I am Japanese.
Yes.
Or Okinawan to be specific.
Yeah.
And not a lot of people know that. So we use that as a way for me to relate back to my roots and kind of rediscover heritage and map that out. And the past 2 years have been a lot of that for me.
Yeah, and most of the Japanese here on Maui are from the same lineage, right? Right?
The Asian side of my family came to work the plantation, the Portuguese side of my family came to work the plantation. So we both have roots in Hawaii working the plantation. But it's hilarious that it kind of came at the same time simultaneously. Yeah. So we've been here for a while.
And there you are, So you grew up here in Maui, born and raised here in Makawao, right? And I was reading, you worked in the farms and all that. How do you think, because we already talked about this last night, but you talked about your upbringing, that it wasn't that you were exposed to really good food right away. So how do you feel that the lack of it, if anything, kind of shaped you into somebody who's actually into food right now?
I never, the lack thereof, because I lived with my dad, who's a single parent, and in his culture, the men never cooked food.
Yeah.
So he had no idea how to cook any food. If you can listen to this podcast, but I'll say it, he still struggles with cooking his own meals. He's learning, right now, he's learning to do the grill thing, so he's grilling everything.
Yeah.
But, a lot of our foods were canned, food stamps, welfare. It was never something that was well thought chapter or a celebration or a tradition, there was nothing like that with food for us at our house.
Yeah.
And so it was always something based around sustenance versus special occasion fun.
Right.
This is your favorite. You know, everything was like a box, a can, frozen. So when I started working in restaurants as a kid, my relationship with food changed because it was that one person who'd show up on family meal day and just crush family meal and make like the most delicious thing ever and be like, I'm really excited to like, it's my turn for family meal, share my culture, this is it, this is Thai food, or like this is, this is the, Mexican street food. And it really opened my eyes because at the time it was just a job and a way to keep me out of trouble working in the kitchen. So I never thought that I was going to be a chef.
I'm so sorry, are you thirsty?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I'm really thirsty. Last night we had our drinks prior. Maybe that's probably why I fucked up everything. We were giving our friends from Sugarcane Dane props for the awesome cocktails.
Did it cut out before we gave the shout out? Because I feel like it...
No. We gave the shout out.
And then it died?
No. We gave the shout out during the karaoke. Yeah. So excuse me. I mean, I need like a drink. So I'm hoping that eventually...
I mean, at least for the karaoke films, I mean...
Yeah, that was the best part. But anyways.
That's my cue.
Hold on. Oh, look at this.
A lot of things back here.
Oh,
sneak attack.
My God.
What's happening, guys?
Oh, yeah.
Thank you for joining us.
Oh, yeah.
Super important.
Just happened to be in the donut realm here.
In the neighborhood.
in the sugar shack, as we call it.
Ooh.
It is a sugar shack. Sugarcane Dane, donuts, and then we have cookie ladies who make donuts.
Sugar daddies.
Yeah, sugar daddies. I mean,
Sugarcane Dane. Sweet daddy sugar lips. There's something.
I love this because, like I was saying, like I owe him a drink at least. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna bring an in-house mixologist. I mean, he happened to be already here, but I was like, can you like pretend that like I ordered you specifically?
Yeah, we gotta make it up to Taylor for coming twice.
I know.
Hey, man, I'll come twice anytime for you. Third time I get a little sleepy, I might need some milk.
Yeah.
It's kind of hot in here. I want to keep the ice in. Well, never mind. We're just gonna do this. This is
So what do we got here?
Taylor named this pretty aptly earlier. It's just what do we call it? It's
Tantric.
the tantric lubricant.
What is
Oh yeah.
I don't know what I was looking at the shelf, but like at first glance last night, I was like tantric powder, and it was, what was it actually? Last night it was like, I don't know, something else. It wasn't,
I wasn't here.
Tantric. I saw it and I was like, what's tantric powder?
Well, this is a fun little mix of little koi, local pineapple, local macadamia nuts, fresh squeezed Maui limes, rum from
Kiliana.
yeah,
So it's all local. So yeah, tell us about this. And actually, while you're here, give us a little Sugarcane Dane.
Yeah, so I'm Dexter, part of Sugarcane Dane. I wish my name rhymes with with cane. But Dane and I started this little cocktail syrup company, and we source local ingredients and work with local farmers to create cocktail syrups for all the bars, restaurants, hotels on Maui.
I love pretty much living with you because I feel like we all live in the donut shop now. So it's like it's kind of dangerous because it's so easy to make cocktails. It's kind of scary.
It's got everything. You got karaoke, you got donuts, and you got cocktails.
I'm gonna have a little bit too.
You have to lock the fridge because it's too easy for me to get those mixes.
Now I know. Next fridge we get
what
a
Kamado inventory.
Right? It's like this woman here, she's starting to drink too much.
We trade a lot though.
Yeah.
We get donuts and
That's
quiche.
delicious.
Yeah, quiche. Oh yeah, I feed them.
Quiche.
I feed them. Yeah.
She makes the best quiche.
Oh, yeah.
I've ever had.
Creamy.
Well, anyway, I don't want to take up too much of your time. Still gotta
Thank you so much,
some syrups back
Dexter.
here.
Freeze
Yay!
time, we can reshoot.
This is like the best podcast re-recording.
Yeah, it's delicious.
Yummy, thank you. So anyways, we're talking about your roots and how it wasn't really the root of your exposure to food. What was your first job? Where did you?
Well, I did work in a diner, but my first professional kitchen job, I worked for Alan Wong at Amasia's. And
I'm sorry, but how did they hire you? Like, if you didn't have any experience.
it actually has a hilarious story to it. So I was going to, it was MCC at the time. It wasn't UHMC.
Right.
And Chris Damsky's sous chef interviewed me. And I was going to school for liberal arts, and somehow it got like mixed in the wire where it was like we got like this culinary student interviewing, and she was like, you're in school? And I was like, yep. She didn't say culinary school. I was like, yeah, I am, second semester. And she was like, great. How are your classes? I was like, really good. I'm like learning stuff, which it was like English and math because I didn't go to high school very often. So I had to like retake all of it.
Yeah.
And so, I didn't lie. And then it was like, great, you start next week. And I was like, awesome. And so I did like the orientation and everything. I didn't know how to do shit. Like I knew how to make like grilled cheese and like French onion with like onion base and beef
like
base.
the diner.
Yeah, like I knew how to, like if they told me to make an hors d'oeuvre, I'd take like a cube of cheese and put it in and be like, yes,
Shit.
So
that's funny.
But I had a tactic, while I worked there, I would I told the guy on my first day that was training me, like, talk to me like this is the first kitchen I ever worked in. And like show me how to do stuff like I don't know how to do anything.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of how I got away. I got into a lot of trouble. I mean, I think like the first 10 minutes I was there, they gave me the recipe book and they're like, make a ×1 aioli. And it was like 50 eggs. Yeah. But I didn't know that everyone had their recipe book with their own ×1, which was 5 eggs. So I made like 22 quarts of fucking aioli with the immersion blender. And so that was like, pretty much every day I got chewed out and I probably cried in the car. I know I definitely cried in the car and, I got yelled at a lot and I'd quit and then I'd come back again. I'd be like, tomorrow I'm going to quit. And that just went on for the whole time I worked there. And I left with like butchery skills, sauce work, mise en place. I knew how to write a prep sheet. Like,
that's amazing. How old were you?
God. I think I maybe just turned 21 at the time.
Yeah, because I remember when the major opened, the Grand Valea. They didn't last very long. I remember.
Almost 2 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Alan Wong, I mean, to be your first professional job. Mm-hmm. When did you figure out that you are serious about food?
Well, when I was working there, he, his cookbook, the Blue Tomato and everything that came out. I got to the point where they let me start checking in the orders, and I got to learn like the names and the amounts and what farms they're coming from. And so that was a totally new experience. And I was like, oh, this is cool. Like I grew up in the agricultural section of paniolo, so like I can totally relate. Yeah. And like I knew a bunch of the delivery guys, and I had so much overtime when I worked there. I saved up I had some money, but I saved up like $10,000.
Wow, for a cook?
Yeah.
No, I don't know any cooks who've ever saved like.
Well, at the time, I was living in a shed in Kihei, like an actual shed, and I lived in North Case. My drive wasn't even 5 minutes. Yeah. And I ate family meal at work. Yeah. And I drank miso soup at nighttime, and I used my neighbor's Wi-Fi. So this is years ago. You can't find a house for $500, even a shed anymore.
Yeah, you have to pay $1,000 for a shed, like a closet shed.
Yeah, and so I saved a lot of money, and just like any classic Maui boy, I was like, I'm gonna buy a lifted truck with this money, and then I was like, I live in a fucking shed. If I have a super sick truck, I'll look stupid. And then I was like, at that point, I had been working there for a year, and I was taking paramedic courses because I thought that was something that I wanted to do. Huh. And then I would stay up watching Jacques Pepin do omelets and prep stuff so I could go into work and like be better, Right. And I had to study for a zoology test, and I just was like, fuck this, I'm not going to study anymore. Yeah. And so I dropped out the next day and signed up for culinary school. Never looked back. So cool.
Yeah. And I know you're bookish. So we were talking about that, how, even then you started like reading all sorts of cookbooks to kind of get in the chef's mind in a way. And so like, what were your favorite cookbooks starting out?
French Laundry for sure.
Classic.
French Laundry, Charlie Trotter's books. I have all of them, including Letters of Service. Oh, wow. Letters of Excellence was also a great one I had. I had Julia Child's book. Jean-Georges was someone I followed, exclusively. We lived in, at the time, like YouTube was like just kind of like getting its foot and its foothold in the world. And like, I felt like there's so many resources. So I was like, you'd come to this shed and like hang out with me after work, and you'd see like a jar of peanut butter on the counter with a plate and like plate wipes because I'd be sitting there like playing, trying to get like my
With
plate
peanut
in.
butter.
Yeah, peanut butter and ketchup,
I love
mayonnaise, and like trying to be able to plate nice and
Yeah.
trying to do rochets with Crisco and like I would just try and do stuff, and like that was kind of like where I was at the time. And then I actually I had to break up with the chef at the time because the first semester was like 5 days a week, and so like shortly after that they shut down. But it was like the hardest 2 weeks I've ever put in for a job. It was really hard.
Yeah, I think it's amazing that with the very little exposure that you had growing up to food, that somehow you just once you were exposed to it, you just were inclined to like learn more about it, because not everybody would have that, right? Like, I mean,
Totally.
It's a job for a lot of people. We know a lot of people in the industry just cooking because it pays. It's almost easy to get a food job, a restaurant job. Whether you're in the front of the house or in the kitchen, they're always hiring. So I know so many people who are just like, okay, it's done. I mean, I can bang out a dish, but to actually try to learn and study and do your homework, you're living in a shed and I don't know of anybody who was trying to plate with peanut butter and ketchup, because obviously it's a cheap thing, and I mean you could reuse it for your sandwich and your later, right? But to use what you had, that was inexpensive to start playing with that. I think that's really commendable. Well, obviously those chefs, but how you mentioned Marco Pure White?
Yeah, I loved White Heat, Devil in the Kitchen. I can't remember his third book. Peter Kaufman. All of those chefs were huge. Like I remember reading Devil in the Kitchen, and I told myself that I was going to be a chef by my 26th birthday.
Yeah, and
it happened. Yeah.
And what were you at 26?
I had just moved up to be chef de cuisine at the Mill House.
Yeah. I feel like your career was actually super fast. It happened super fast. If your first job was at Amasia, I still remember that. Your early 20s, and you had just turned 30. I think in less than a decade, you've accomplished so much in the industry. I mean, you realize that, of course.
Kind of like it's funny because like I turned 31 next month, and so I think in body I feel like 62 because every day was like 2 days, if not 2.5. Yeah. And a lot of the time, even when I was a sous chef at the restaurant, I had another job that I worked on weekends, or I was doing stages, or I was just staying up late trying to do stuff and like learn and just like absorb, and I mean, I still have so much stuff to learn. Like
we do.
I think that I have things figured out, and then I'm humbled by the most simplest task. Like I don't think I'm ever going to be in a comfortable place with cooking. I'm always going to be I'm never going to be like complacent or okay with just treading water. Like I always want to do new stuff, learn new ingredients, find new perspectives, push different boundaries, refine something. I'm all about refinement.
Because now at Kamado, obviously, when you were at the Mill House, it's very like American style cuisine. Now you have to. You're saying last night how you have to cook like Chinese or Spanish or whatever, like totally different cuisines all the time. So it's kind of fun because then you keep learning and pushing your boundaries.
Yep, and I mean the times that I even want to do things, or there are things that I don't want to do for clients, I end up really liking them because it's my interpretation.
Right.
Like I don't claim to be a Chinese chef or a Jamaican chef or, even any other kind of cultured chef. I'm just going to have my own interpretation of it based off of my experiences and what I'm taught myself, learned through others, or think it would be like. And, a lot of times it comes out, you'll see it in my style, my knife cuts, my preparations, and it, but then you have those flavors of which are natural to that area,
Yeah. Where do you get your inspiration that you feel is all encompassing with any kind of cuisine that you have to cook?
Depends. I mean, for me, a lot of it, like I wake up in the morning and
if you're not hungover, I'm just kidding.
Even if I'm hungover, if I don't die, But
That's tough.
I look at the chefs that I follow, and I see what they're doing, and I like break the plate down. Like, okay, how did they build this plate? How did they build the components? And then I say, like, okay, like this is where food's moving. I've been following this chef. I need to try and keep up with this trend and try and do this. Mm-hmm. And so I'm inspired a lot by other people, as well as I think produce specifically. Mm-hmm. When I see something, it kind of gets the wheels turning, especially like being out and about, because I love the outdoors.
Yeah.
That's always been something that gives me a lot of like mental points to like figure something out.
Yeah. Well, talking about produce, like how do you feel about Maui's food sustainability? Is there do you feel like there's any changes you want to see in the future, or were there any changes that you wish didn't happen when it comes to our food sources here?
I really liked during COVID that everyone was doing these farmer boxes and everyone was supporting local, and I hope that people continue to keep doing it. Yeah. There was like a time, where people were calling me and texting me pictures of kohlrabi and being like, what the fuck is this? And I'm like, it's a kohlrabi. And they're like, what do I do with it? I'm like, you can do X, Y, and Z. Yeah. I thought that was really cool, and I hope that we continue to do that. The more farms and things we support, the better. I'm not saying you shouldn't go to the store for anything, but the produce lasts so much longer. It's so much fresher. Yeah. You have your friend, it's a story. And I feel like the food really is a lot better when you use produce from near you. Yeah.
I was talking to Sunny Savage about this, and I mean, she's more into wild foods, right? But I mean, the same idea where she feels like, genetically it kind of changes. I mean, not kind of, it changes you as a human eating whatever it is that you're eating. And also if you're eating from where your food comes from, there's a genetic match, and I mean, I don't know enough about the science of it, but I feel like in theory it makes complete sense when you think about, how food and cuisine have come about in different regions in the world. I feel like there's a reason why those types of plants or food sources thrive in that area, and
totally,
how it can nourish the people who live there. So yeah, what do you do to support? I mean, I know that you use a lot of local farms, but in particular, is that something that you kind of try to push or at least suggest to your clientele, or is it up to you?
It's an aggressive push, I think, right off the get-go. I mean, I do have clientele that, that's not what they want to do, and that's fine. It's at the end of the day, the client is the king, whatever they want. But I'm always going to push my mission statement is, my cooking style. Like, people ask me what my cooking style is. I'm like, I don't really know how to answer that. Like, I say modern American, because America has so many different cultures and immigrants.
Right.
I definitely identify as an immigrant, or the child of an immigrant, or former child, depending on who you talk to. But those kind of influences change, and for me, a huge part of what I identify with my cooking identity is making sauces again, making doughs, creating flavors through building flavor. It's not like you open a package and it's instantly umami and delicious.
Right.
I want to be able to develop flavor over time and use my skills and techniques that I've learned over the years to make something good, as opposed to just having something convenient. Right. Because when I was a kid, before I moved with my aunt and uncle, there weren't people who were spending a lot of time making their chichidongo for me or their soup. There wasn't someone doing that, but when I do it, I feel like I'm making someone feel special. It's a random act of service, or I don't know if that's my love language, but when I cook for someone, it's really me putting myself out there. It's when I'm the most vulnerable. It's when I feel also the most comfortable, but also I have the most fear, because I really want that person to have a good meal.
I was gonna ask what what the principles are that you stand behind, but I feel like in a way that was your answer. Is there anything you want to add on to that? What is, who is Taylor, Chef Taylor Ponte as a human who happens to be a chef? Coming from your background and all the things and chefs that you've been exposed to and the kind of foods, what do you stand for, right?
I think for for me, I try to. I don't always hit the mark, but I try to stand for someone who is okay with failure in the pursuit of something better than myself. Which to me, everything is better than me. I just need to like conquer my task to actually validate it.
Yeah.
And I want to be the best version of myself, and that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to like go through pain to get there, but you have to put in the work. And so I instantly give people a lot of respect, you included, who put in the work and actually work really, really hard, because I feel like we sometimes like we get at this place where we're comfortable and we don't want to do anything different.
Yeah.
And like for me, I always want to like, by the time I get a dish right, I'm already working on the next dish.
Yeah.
Right when I get it where I want, I'm already 2/3 of the process into another one.
That is actually a problem sometimes because we don't know how to stop.
Yeah.
I think this industry in general is brutal. It could be so tiresome, and you could hit the wall pretty easily if you don't love the business, because you gotta love it to stay in it, because it's not easy. It really isn't. So I always talk about sustainability, but not just about food, but like how do you sustain your passion and your love for what you do? Like, what do you do outside of, cooking, outside of food?
I mean, there's definitely like those times where I wanted to quit cooking, and like I was over it, But then I remembered why I started cooking, because, of reasons I like the process of cooking. I never wanted to work in a desk job. I liked like cook culture, like non-toxic cook culture.
Yeah.
Like,
and what do you mean by that, non-toxic cook culture?
Like I grew up around like bikers and like ex-military people a lot as a kid, and like cooks are the closest thing to it, I think. They're people who are like not afraid.
Renegade,
they're not afraid to speak their mind.
Yeah.
They're definitely the type of person who loves music, art. They love the finer things, but they enjoy a great hot dog.
Yeah, and pushing boundaries while enjoying a great hot dog.
Yeah, you could be sitting on the loading dock talking about Sebastian Bach with this guy who's smoking a pack of Marlboro Reds. Who's wearing a pair of teal Crocs.
Yeah,
like the last person you'd think who'd know who that is.
I think that is such an interesting, like we were saying, like the food culture. Mm-hmm. People in the industry, well, at least the ones who are in it for the heart of it, and not just like, okay, just get a quick paycheck. You have to be some sort of an artist, really, at some point to like really appreciate that, especially in the fine dining, cooking. And I think I told you this, how I started in a fine dining environment and kind of pulled myself away from it because I wanted to make food that's approachable and closer to my roots and who I am, but I love that culture. Like I feel like I belong there more than anywhere else. Like I love the conversations that we have. Like I love how we can be so angry and have like we probably like battle each other in the kitchen, and yet after that we'll go grab a drink and we'll love each other again. Like there's something about, I want to say, some industries are a lot more sensitive. It's good. Yeah. It's good, and at the same time, I feel that there's something about the toughness in the kitchen that prepares you for life, almost.
I 100% agree with that.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that the lessons of the kitchen can, a lot like martial arts, will influence many aspects of your life without you even thinking about it.
So somebody told me that you use a lot of battle references in the kitchen. You just said that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Give me an example. I just heard that, but I didn't know exactly what they meant.
Well, I've always been huge into history. My past quotes usually consist of, because I'm a young person trying to do a lot, I do a lot of Alexander the Great. He was super young when he conquered, half of the world.
Yeah.
And I have a lot of them. There's a lot of 80s cult classics that I quote too. Probably one of my favorite, I think, is Russell Crowe in Gladiator, where it's the scene where they figure out that he's actually the former general of the Roman army, and the quote is roughly whatever comes out of that gate, we're gonna face it head on together, And that's probably one of my favorites. usually like opening night, first time I'm leading a kitchen, that's usually my first pass quote.
Love that. Well, I know that now you pretty much work solo in the kitchen with the assistance of Natasha if you're in the weeds.
Yeah, she bails me out a lot.
Because she can bail you out.
Yeah.
She's like all around talented and definitely necessary in Kamado.
She'll do anything but cut the herbs. Because she knows I'm really anal about, not anal-able, but anal about herbs.
Ah, interesting.
Yeah.
We all have our little thing, right?
Yeah.
But as a leader, I mean, because you ran, Millhouse is such a huge, like, I can't, I mean, you ran that kitchen, and I mean, that's a huge kitchen. That's a huge restaurant to run at a very young age. And like you were saying, not too long ago, before then, you were just starting out. So,
Yeah.
I mean, how were you as a leader, you think? And how do you think, I mean, now that you've taken a break from that as well, like, how were you as a leader, and how do you imagine yourself to be a leader after, if you do grow out of Kamado?
I think looking back, just like in anything in life, you can always be better, and it was like working so many long hours and back-to-back days. And when you're the leader of something, you're working all the time.
Yeah.
Like you're getting those texts at 4 a.m. Your day off, you're going back in, Valentine's Day, Mother's Day, President's Day, Father's Day. Those are all like, everyone's like amped up at work, but it's like you're amped up and you're also having to deal with the aftermath, checking the funds coming in, the funds coming out, the food costs, I think I did okay. I know that I did a good job because a lot of the relationships I had with my staff are still solid today.
Oh, good.
Like after we all got laid off, it wasn't like they mutinied me. I'm a very like cut and dry person. Like I'm direct in how I speak to people at work, and I'm very different. But like, I've definitely matured over the past 2 years in the sense of I know myself a lot better and what it takes to be successful. But, like at the end of the day, you have a job to do and you have to get it done. It's not always the easiest role to be the head chef of a place.
Yeah.
It's tough.
It's tough.
As you know.
Yeah, I actually really love working for myself now and on my own because of that. Like it's just its own full-time job to be managing people and that responsibility that it's their livelihood falls under your management in a way.
I mean, it like you ask any of my cooks, like they wanted a 3-day weekend, I make it happen, and a lot of the time, like I wouldn't even get a 2-day or a 1-day, or and like I'd sacrifice myself. I'd work the line to cover someone's shift, and then when you have that many people and that many personalities, it comes down to some people I think are naturally gonna take advantage of that, and some people aren't. You're gonna have people who back up that type of energy and appreciate it, and then you're gonna have the people who are like, I don't care.
Yeah, because they just.
Yeah, and I'm like a go-getter. Like I'm like whatever. Like I'll do it. And those are areas that I think now like it wouldn't fly with me as much.
Yeah, setting your boundaries. So I kind of want to
learn how to do that during COVID. It's weird.
But yeah, so I want to go back to that, like trying to take care of yourself and creating balance, because our industry is notorious for not having any balance, right?
Yeah.
How do you set your boundaries now that you have better control of your time and you can say yes or no to clients really technically?
So no matter what, when I'm working, before I start the day, I say, this is the amount of time I have to get stuff done. I forget what the exact quote was, but it was like, if you give yourself 10 minutes to clean your room, you'll do it in 10 minutes. Give yourself 10 days, you'll do it in 10 days.
I like that. Yeah.
And so I think it's the same thing. I like to think of my work week now is like writing a prep sheet. When I first started actually like timing myself, it's going to take me 30 seconds to cut these onions. It's going to take me 1 hour to get this sauce completed and on the stove. It's going to take me 45 minutes to break these chickens. Like, and how I used to be very, very anal about those time pockets. Yeah. It's the same thing with work. So I tell myself, like, I'm going to wake up and start bread at 7 a.m. and at 3 o'clock, the stoves are off, I'm cleaned, I'm swept. And that's not on game day. Those are on prep days. Yeah. So I tell myself that. So, if I'm feeling anxious about something like, oh my God, I got to get this ice cream base going, I'm like, you better pick it up, bro. Because like, you got 30 minutes. Yeah. So it's like a video game for me. Like I'm my own chef where I've always been really hard on myself, but I also have to like, you know, in a sense, whip it out and tell myself to like stop being complacent and like push myself.
Yeah.
You know,
You gotta yell at yourself because
Yeah.
nobody else is going to when you work on your own.
I wish someone would yell at me. You know, but,
Natasha, did you
Yeah.
hear that? You're allowed to yell at him if he's slacking.
Yeah.
But then okay, so that's at work. What else do you do outside of work? Like, do you surf anymore? I know that you used to surf and you even
Not
used
really.
to,
Not really.
skateboard.
Skateboard. I was really into skateboarding, but the problem with skateboarding is you can't really work on your feet for 12 to 15 hours after you crush your ankles on the staircase.
Yeah.
You know?
And you don't quite heal like when you were 15.
I don't. You know, I woke up without a hang. You know, my hangover was pretty mild this morning, so I think I kind of proved to myself a little bit more than I thought.
I actually was kind of surprised too. Other than the fucking headache of like shit, I lost my videos. I felt pretty good. Yeah.
I was up at 5 a.m. ready to go.
Oh,
Like, I was
good,
on
good.
the road.
No, I can't say I woke up that early.
It took me longer to drink my coffee than normal, though.
Oh.
Other than that, you know. But you know, my free time, I spend a lot of time reading books. We talked about it kind of last night. I still focus with picking up sword play and things like that. I still
Yeah,
enjoy
LARPing,
that.
which I was forewarned that some people you might not like the word LARP.
I don't mind the word, you know, LARPing, which is live action role playing. It's just I don't do live action role playing. I do a full contact martial arts that's based around an actual fighting style.
Yeah, let's talk about that again because we talked about it last night, but I thought it was so interesting because first of all, you grew up on Maui.
Mm-hmm.
How the hell did you get into this Renaissance style sword fights? And we're talking like medieval style fights, right?
Well, I think, you know, like as a kid, I got into a lot of trouble. I was always getting into fights. I was always getting into trouble. I was, you know, but I also didn't have anyone to really hold me accountable for it.
Oh, I'm so sorry, but you have a twin brother. Did you not ever use him as like he did it? Because
if they thought I was bad, I mean, he's equal. I mean, there's a reason they call this double trouble. I mean, if I blamed him, they'd probably be like, "Oh, he's in the cell with you." You know, like, we were always in trouble.
Did you like growing up with the twin brother?
We hated each other growing up. So there was a lot of animosity, and I mean, you look at school photos. A lot of the time, one of us had a black eye or a fat lip.
Oh my god!
We beat the shit out of each other.
Oh, that's hilarious.
He's one of my closest relationships. You know.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love my brother a lot, and
that's how you show love when you're kids. I mean, you get in fights with each other. I mean, don't get me wrong. I got in fights with my sister and my brother growing up. You know, just I mean, full on like fucking banging my sister's head on the floor. I mean, I was like pretty violent. Sorry, did I say that?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, but now we're adults. Obviously, we can laugh about it. But I always kind of fantasize about having a twin. And I still do, kind of. Like, every time I do something naughty, I'm like, that wasn't me, that was my evil twin sister. Like, you actually had a real twin brother. Like, except that you were both evil at some point.
The nuns loved us at our Catholic school. So there were uniforms, we used to switch desks and stuff, you know, get into all kinds of trouble. Which probably was a good foreshadowing for us getting in trouble in our teens.
Yeah, I bet.
But, you know, I had moved in, to finish high school, I was really struggling. Like, I you know, our home wasn't really very solid. And, you know, oddly enough, my brother also moved in with a close family friend. And I moved in with a friend from school that I had met, and we became really good friends, and we hit it off. And they basically, like, adopted me.
At what age?
I had just turned, I think, 16.
So you and your brother kind of separated around then,
Yeah, and I mean, we still hung out and stuff, but, like, I moved in, you know, they're my Hanai family. And, you know, they took care of me. My aunt did everything from buying me acne medication to dropping my first day off to school, you know? They did a lot for me. And, like, I definitely wouldn't be here today without them, you know? And I wouldn't have had a lot of the support that I have now. You know, there was, like, my entire life, it was always, like, fear pushing me. Like, I didn't want to go back to where I came from, or I didn't want to do any of that kind of thing. I always wanted to push. I always felt like I had to do more to survive. And I always felt like on edge, and I always felt like I was alone. But then, like, all of a sudden one day I woke up and I realized how many people supported me and were, like, rooting for me, you know? And that was, like, a very, like, big moment in my life, you know? It was like, I have so many people rooting for me and, like, telling me I can do it. It's, like, the first time in my life where it's not just me, you know? So it was, moving in with them was definitely, like, a point in my life where I felt like I had the ability to succeed. You know?
Wow. Okay, so I'm sorry, I kind of digressed again, but I really wanted to talk about the damn freaking.
Oh yeah, so I moved in with my uncle, and he was a boxer, he was a bodybuilder, fucking breakdancer, he's a super athletic guy, and when I moved in with him, he was getting ready for a competition, so he had all his armor out, and he was polishing it, and I was like, what is that?
Oh, so he was into it.
Yeah, and so a bunch of the guys that he worked out with were also part of it, and I started doing that, and I stopped partying, and it kept me out of trouble, and it kind of like lined up because I really, as a kid, I loved Lord of the Rings, I loved like fantasy novels, I loved, you know, Alexander Dumas books, I loved like all these different, you know, Count of Monte Cristo is like one of my favorite books of all time.
It's so wild.
And it just kind of like lined up and kept me out of trouble. Like I never had something, you know, like skateboard culture is very interesting. It's all about like rebelling and doing exactly the opposite of what society is telling you. But like when you're researching and like trying to rediscover history and things that have been forgotten and techniques, it's very rewarding.
Yeah, and I think it's great that, I mean, you, like you said, you got in trouble a lot, got in fights. At least this is an outlet where it's healthy, it's creative in itself, and it's got a different culture that's so much more interesting than just getting in trouble with these other kids. So how old were you when you got into?
So I first started actually like training when I was probably just turning 17. I was like 17 and a half.
Wow, you've been doing this a while. Longer than cooking.
Pretty much.
Yeah. Holy shit. Yeah. So, I mean, you go there, you battle like full on. Like you have your armor.
65 pounds of armor.
Yeah.
It's a full contact sport. You know, you just go for it.
And how often do you do this?
I train for it year round for competitions and whatnot. But like I like to say, like I have like my idol fitness, and then 3 months out before I go for a competition, I train really, really hard, and I start cranking out more squats and cardio for sure.
Because I remember seeing a post of you, like, I just thought, I don't know, you went to a party or something.
Everyone always thinks
you're
that.
in costume.
You're at a Renaissance fair or something.
Yeah,
but in reality, I'm like in a hotel room for 2 days later with bruises from head to toe and like muscle fatigue beyond recognition.
Yeah. I mean, you also train, like you were saying, you also did Jiu-Jitsu. You trained.
I dabbled in Jiu-Jitsu. I did boxing as a kid. You know, my dad was very adamant about martial arts with my 3 brothers, and we all kind of just,
you all did.
We all had to do it. You know, growing up country, you almost always got the shit kicked out of you for something. So you might as well like.
What's up with these local? Everyone loves to scrap in Hawaii. Yeah. Like I feel like everyone's a fighter of some sort. I don't think like because like I'm into that as well. I did jiu-jitsu for a few years. I did judo for a few years.
Boxing too.
I boxed, you know, and I love that. But I thought it was just for me. It was like more a hobby and just staying in shape. That's not freaking aerobic class or something. Like you can't see me. You'll never find me in an aerobic class. Yeah, so I mean it's cute, but like it's just not my style, right? So I've always been into combatives because it's a great way to stay in shape. And I think, you know, being a woman, I always kind of felt like, you know, you kind of need to learn how to protect yourself. I lived in huge cities where, you know, they tell you not to be out at certain times, certain neighborhoods, you know, but I had to sometimes for work.
Yeah, because you're working in kitchens, you're out late, you know?
Yeah, you work late. So it was just something that I felt like I kind of needed to just feel comfortable about it. So, but...
Just to make me think twice after they get roundhoused by
a dance
shoe.
God. It was actually so funny. It was in San Francisco. I was on the phone with my now former husband, but he was on the phone with me. And this guy was drunk and was walking towards him. He was walking towards me. And I don't know if he was drunk, that's why he touched my boob, or he was so drunk that he lost his balance and touched my boob. But
he just touched your boob. No one loses their balance and grabs a boob for Dexter, you hearing this shit? I slipped and I just happened to grab find your breasts. Yeah. Do you ever see a woman trip and fall and grab some big rod? Yeah, it just doesn't happen.
But anyways, my instinct immediately was like to punch him. I freaking punched him in the face, and this guy was just like freaked out, and Frank was on the phone. It's like, what's going on? I was like, I'm gonna fuck the shit up, like this guy up. And
did you grab your ass when you knocked?
I know, he got so scared because it like caught him by surprise how like hard I fucking hit him. First of all, around that time, and I guess by then I stopped competing, but I was competing in Olympic weightlifting for a few years prior to that. So I've always been like super strong for my size. I'm compact, and I'm like freaking solid. So my punches were like, anyways, it just happened, and I was like, holy shit, like, sorry. I felt bad, but at the same time, like, fuck you. Like, don't do that again. You know, but yeah.
I doubt he ever will. That guy probably...
he's probably traumatized by that.
Yeah, he probably is like the most well-balanced sober person ever.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah. Poor man.
Anyways, like I said, I've kept you for so long last night. and today, so let me just make sure that I covered everything. But considering how, I mean, I just feel like you've only been in the industry for not super long, but you're super successful at it. Do you have any advice to new chefs, like young chefs who are like, okay, well, I want to be a rockstar chef like Chef Taylor? I mean, quite like what, in 2020 you got your Aipono award. Like that's, I don't know how many chefs at that age got that award on Maui. Really, you're probably one of the youngest.
I think that, like, I don't know, I'd probably more identify as a garage band chef, to be honest, but like Moldy Peaches or something. But I think just be fearless. I mean, when you're young, people expect you to fail and suck at shit, and people want to give you their advice because they've experienced so much. So it's like, okay, you know, like, people are constantly going to tell you, like, you're still young. Oh, you know, like, young people make mistakes. You know, there are a lot of people who are very young who've done a lot of stuff because they're dedicated and they work really, really hard, regardless of what job they're doing.
Yeah.
And I think when you're young, you have nothing to lose. You have all the luck. You know, you're willing to sleep on a park bench because your back's not quite as tender as it's going to be later on in life, you know? And if you really, really apply yourself and be honest with yourself, you can really, really succeed in anything you do. But you have to be honest with yourself. You can't bullshit.
Yeah.
As you know.
Yeah, I think, and we were even talking about vulnerability. That's part of like the honesty with yourself and knowing what you are or not what you are or what you're not capable of at the time, so that when there's advice that comes your way, instead of like being so just rebellious just for the sake of being rebellious, like.
I have a document in my notes on my phone. It's titled "Why Do You Suck?" and I write it all the shit that I suck at on there.
Huh.
And maybe it's not the healthiest, but I look at it, I'm like, I suck at blah 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 blah, and then at the end of the week, I'm like, what's like a step in the direction of fixing this? You know. And it could be anything, regardless of I suck at organizing, I suck at writing a prep sheet.
Yeah.
I suck at knife skills.
You know,
you just gotta suck less.
It sounds, well, like you just said, like, is it healthy? But if you are honest with yourself about what you suck at, but actually do something about it, I think that's what makes it healthy. I had 2 Olympians on the show, and Kelly Settle is a 2-time pole vaulter
beast
in the Olympics. She's a fucking beast. I love her so much. But that's one of the things that she said. Is like, well, you know, it's so easy and so much fun to do what you're great at, right? But really, what it is like she dissected all of her weaknesses, and that way she knew what to hone in on. And like, okay, that's not fun. It sucks to say you suck, but as long as your purpose is to unsuck yourself, wait. to unsuck, it's healthy, and it helps you propel yourself to the next level.
I think, you know, right now we live in this time where everyone is told they're perfect the way they are. Everything's good.
Yeah, you get a trophy just for attending.
Yeah, and that's great. Like, I think that the actual message is like you need to actually know your self-worth and value. So I get the underlying message to that, but I don't really agree with that mindset. I agree with, you're not perfect. You have to work to make yourself where you want to be. Yeah. And you have to build on it. You have to build skills. You have to gain knowledge. That's what life's about. It's not about like, I'm good the way I am, I'm just going to stay where I'm at. It's like, if you're fine with that, that's great. Yeah. Me personally, I could never be fine with just being the person I am right now. I have to work and be better for myself, my friends, for the people around me.
Yeah.
You know, I always have this immense pressure on myself to do more than what I'm doing in this moment.
Well, I think that it's great and more power to people who are happy the way they are now and for a long time if they want to stay there. I kind of wish I felt that way sometimes so that there's less, you know, the pressure and less like banging your head on the fucking wall because you didn't do it right, you know, because we do that to ourselves. But I also feel that our type of people in general accomplish more because we push ourselves beyond what's comfortable, you know. I mean, that's just how I feel. But if you're comfortable, like I said, I'm happy for you. You know, I just believe that to accomplish, you got to push.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, and you also have to remember that like success for you may look different to success for someone else.
Absolutely.
You know, you know, if you just measure hard work as success, you know, maybe that is it for you. But like to me, it's like if that were the case, you know, they say a donkey would be king of the jungle and not a lion because they're the hardest working animal. They carry everything.
I'd like to think they were lions.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'd like more like a toucan or. I want to be something awesome like a lion, but you know, I think about that kind of stuff though. Like
lion, lioness.
Yeah, you got a mane.
Use it.
I'm like a house cat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey.
Give me your attention. You know, but
we want to give you that.
Yeah. I think about that though. Like if you don't put yourself out there and you don't work hard and you don't know what success looks like to you, then you're going to be working this never-ending grind.
Yeah.
But if you map it out and say, this is my purpose, this is what I'm working towards, you can give yourself that mental energy and be like, holy crap, I did it. Like,
I think purpose is so important because you have that end game, you know, and then you can have other purpose, and after that, you know, you can, like you said, you're on to the next project when you're like perfecting something, and
it's like a prep sheet. You're just crossing stuff out. You're like, hell that's done.
Like my cross sheet of like my questions because I have to organize myself today because last night we talked for 2 hours and I lost them all.
Was it only 2?
It's fucking 2 hours, dude. It was so much fun. But like, I guess 2 hours wasn't enough, so I had to bring you back here. But anyways, back to Kamado. How do people book with you?
So you can go through our website, kamadomaui.com, Instagram, Kamado Maui, Taylor_Ponte on Instagram. Pretty much, I mean, you could even just DM me. Yeah. I mean, we get a lot of business through DMing.
If they DM you, they'll get a lot of emoticons. If they DM Kamado, it's like proper English.
Yeah. If you DM me, then I'm going to send you to Natasha's email. So you might as well just email her first. Yeah. And if you want really quick responses, just email
Natasha. She's the power behind this power.
Yeah.
Okay.
People ask me, they're like, hey, are you free to this? I'm like, I have no idea. I don't even know what day of the week it is. I just say yes, chef, and go to work.
Yeah.
Here's the menu, you know?
Yeah. And that's the truth to it, is that like for what we accomplish, a lot of times we have this backup. You know, we have this support system that, you know, pushes us and inspires us and make life and work just a little bit better.
Yeah, I didn't even have like an analogy to properly like set that, you know, but like I literally just do the food. Yeah. So everything else is from the linens to the tables to the flowers to the staffing.
Yeah, I'm learning that myself now that I'm on my own. I used to just I just make the donuts. Now I was like, fuck, I gotta do that too. I gotta check the mail. Oh, I fucking hate it. But I
answer emails.
And answer emails. I fucking hate answering emails or calling people back like on the phone. Yeah. You know, but it's gotta be done. And I actually saw this meme the other day, or actually it was more like a reel of this, whatever. You know how they do audio, whatever, and this kid was like saying, do I like it? No, but do I do it? Yes. I'm like, fuck, I know I'm gonna do it. But anyways, well, thank you so much. The second time, hopefully the third time we're just going out to eat like to Tiffany's or go on another karaoke trip. Like
totally.
Yeah, so I think this show is recorded. We have backup.
The red light's not on.
Oh, shut up! Don't freak me out. But thank you so much for taking the time, hanging out with me and talking story. And I want to thank everybody for watching again. If you're watching us on YouTube, I will be back next week for reals, hopefully. Live doesn't disconnect. But at 9:01 p.m. Hawaii time. And everybody say aloha!